A daring operation. Special forces from the main intelligence directorate landed on the Tendrivska Spit and eliminated the occupiers' positions. Very soon, we'll show and tell you how it all happened. Putin may decide to blow up the nuclear power plant and is also preparing operations involving nuclear facilities in NATO countries. All the details will be reported by our journalists. In Kamchatka, the most powerful earthquake in decades has occurred, a tsunami warning has been issued, and a volcanic eruption has begun. There has been zero reaction from Putin. China is next in line. Trump has announced the introduction of 25% tariffs for India and threatened penalties for buying oil and weapons from Russia during Putin's aggression against Ukraine. All this and more coming up in our broadcast. In the meantime, please like this video and subscribe to the Ukraine channel. Today is going to be interesting. Ukraine is very close to having its own ballistic missiles capable of striking the territory of the aggressor country, Russia. This was reported by Defense Minister Denis Shmyhal in an interview with BBC News Ukraine. The minister noted that this is all the information he can publicly share on the matter. Well, that's probably for the best. Soon enough, Ukrainian missiles will speak for themselves. A brilliant special operation by the main intelligence directorate. Ukrainian armed forces soldiers landed on the Tendrivska Spit in the Kherson region and destroyed a position of the Russian occupiers. In a minute, we will show you this footage. Drones are now falling even in the capital of Belarus. Lukashenko and his cronies are trying to blame Ukraine for this attack, but all signs point to this provocation being just Putin deciding to spook his friend Grigorich. In fact, since the beginning of the year, Russian planes have already dropped more than 100 bombs on their own territory. This and more in our military review.
The occupiers have been taken out again. The armed forces of Ukraine carried out a successful operation in the Black Sea. Special forces from the main intelligence directorate landed on the Tendrivska Spit and eliminated Russian military positions. As noted by the main intelligence directorate, the Ukrainian flag was raised over the island. The operation was completed without any losses on the Ukrainian side. And the Ukrainian armed forces also thwarted another enemy attack in the Orikhiv direction. The Russians tried to break through the defenses but suffered significant losses within a few hours.
It's no coincidence that the occupiers are trying to escalate tensions in the Zaporizhia direction. In my opinion, this tactic has several components. The first is foreign policy. This is to show both the United States and Ukraine that the Russian Federation considers the Zaporizhia region as territory fully controlled by the Russian Federation, according to the decree of the Russian dictator. The second is the so-called 1,000 cuts tactic. This is the solution to a strategic objective in the Zaporizhia direction.
At the same time, Russian troops continued to advance on the front. And over the past day, they managed to advance in several settlements. The military warns of the risk of encirclement near Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad.
At the moment, the main threat of creating an operational encirclement comes from the actions of the occupiers on the flanks of the Pokrovsk front, rather than a breakthrough by so-called reconnaissance and sabotage groups directly into Pokrovsk itself. In the direction of Mirnohrad, the main actions of the occupiers are aimed at taking direct control of the main location of the Ukrainian defense forces. This is the only asphalt road used for personnel rotation and the delivery of ammunition to Ulasran.
And Russian conscripts are even attacking their own. In the past month alone, at least 5 new incidents of Russian aerial bombs falling on Russian territory or on occupied Ukrainian territories have been recorded. Since the beginning of 2025, at least 100 aerial bombs have been recorded as having fallen. In addition, the fall of 3 missiles has been documented.
The Russian aerospace forces are essentially in a significantly worn out and degraded state. And accordingly, the probability and likelihood of such unfortunate incidents occurring is only steadily increasing, growing almost geometrically and at an alarming rate. Moreover, there have been recorded cases of unplanned, as the Russians call it, releases of FABs, ranging from FAB 250s all the way up to FAB 3000s, and these have occurred on Russian territory.
And this means that the occupiers' outdated aircraft fleet is in need of modernization. But right now, that's the least of their concerns. Russia is launching a large-scale program to protect its aircraft at several airfields near the Ukrainian border. British intelligence has released satellite images showing the construction of shelters.
First and foremost, these are preventive actions by the defense forces of Ukraine and the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense, specifically targeting airstrikes on the airfields used by the Russian aerospace forces. It's no coincidence that, according to British intelligence, engineering work is being carried out at the Milerovo, Kursk, Vostoknoye and Gvardeyskoye air bases. It should be noted that the Milerovo airfield is located approximately 20 kilometers east of the Russian-Ukrainian border. The defense forces of Ukraine are carrying out preemptive strikes on the airfields used by the Russian aerospace forces.
Last night it was loud again in Russia. Attack drones were detected in various regions. And also, a drone with Ukrainian markings was allegedly shot down over the capital of Belarus. Let me remind you that previously in Belarus, a Mi-24 helicopter shot down a Russian drone.
I do not rule out the possibility of a provocation by the Russian side. The point is that the day before, it was specifically a Russian drone that violated the airspace of a NATO country from the territory of the Republic of Belarus. Specifically, it was a GUR drone in question. All attempts to explain that it was lost geolocationally due to the impact of Ukrainian electronic warfare systems do not hold up to scrutiny. In my opinion, the attempt to minimize the corresponding negative effect from provocations on the borders with NATO countries was the primary reason for the incident in Minsk. Moreover, I would like to point out that just in the period from the 17th to the 13th of July, it is known that there have been more than 60 cases of violations of Belarusian airspace specifically by Russian drones.
Earlier, the Russian Pantsir air defense system allegedly mistakenly opened fire on a passenger plane on the Minsk-Moscow route. The airliner sustained damage.
In other words, the Russian Federation is trying to escalate the situation both within Belarus itself and, first and foremost, to signal to the People's Republic of China and, accordingly, to the United States that it considers the territory of the Republic of Belarus to be within its own military political sphere of influence, regardless of external signals from China and the United States directed at the Russian Federation.
Well, in the near future, we can expect even more provocations from the Kremlin against the backdrop of the upcoming Russian-Belarusian military exercises Zapad 2025.
Putin may decide to sabotage the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Forbes has predicted a dangerous scenario. Russia may also be preparing operations involving nuclear facilities in NATO countries. Right now, our journalists will share all the details.
Putin may decide to blow up the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, prepare sabotage operations involving nuclear facilities in NATO countries.
These are very dangerous acts of terrorism. One can only imagine what would happen if we responded in kind, what would happen to this entire part of Europe.
If the Russian dictator is defeated in the war, he may mine each of the 6 reactors at the plant and detonate these devices remotely, creating clouds of radioactive fallout that will quickly spread across Europe, but could also drift toward Russia itself.
The Russian Federation is already a nuclear terrorist state as it is. That's the point. The detonation, the deliberate detonation of a nuclear facility, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, could mean, well, the actual collapse of the Putin regime. Because essentially, this could be regarded as a declaration of war not only against Europe, not only against the collective West, not only against the United States, but in fact against the entire world. Because, again, you're right. Where would the cloud go from such an explosion at the largest nuclear facility on the European continent? It's simply impossible to calculate these risks.
The IAEA is constantly concerned about the risk of catastrophe, but as we know, international law means nothing to Russia.
I was worried, I am still worried, and I will continue to be worried about the situation at the nuclear power plant until things stabilize and become more predictable. Obviously, the physical integrity of the plant has been violated several times, whether accidentally or deliberately.
I have to say that, well, to put it mildly, our relationship with the IAEA as a whole is far from cloudless. And of course, we often see among a number of IAEA documents what people call double standards.
On the other hand, active hostilities continue, and the Russians themselves are actively spreading stories that supposedly Ukraine is shelling the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant every day. And if an accident happens, it certainly won't be the Russians' fault.
One of the specific locations of these essential spray pools was directly hit by a devastating HIMARS strike, and consequently we had to carefully take it out for extensive repairs to fully restore its complete and vital functionality.
The Zaporizhzhia plant was literally on the brink of disaster when the armed forces of Ukraine shelled it on August 11th, and the fire seriously damaged one of the 2 cooling towers of the power plant. This is a serious situation. The West looked at it rather carelessly. Whether someone likes that the plant is under Russian control or not is another matter, And that has nothing to do with the threats to the nuclear and physical safety of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant.
Right now, we are not only guarding the plant, we are not only defending our own interests, the interests of the residents of Donbass and Novorossiya. Right now, we are protecting all of them, all of Europe, and you could say the whole world. Because if, God forbid, an accident were to happen, it would affect the entire world.
Russia considers the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant its own and is preparing to launch and integrate it into the Russian power grid.
The Rosenergoatom concern of the Rosatom State Corporation has prepared a comprehensive multi-level plan for the phased commissioning of the nuclear power plant. And for us, there are no ambiguities there, nothing unknown to us. These are procedures we know very well.
In the near future, as soon as we push the fascists back a bit, we will have the opportunity to work here and provide economic support for the Zaporizhzhia region.
I believe that Mariupol and in time Zaporizhzhia with its capacities and Dnipropetrovsk, where our electricity used to go, will all work for the benefit of our country, and our plant will be very, very timely and appropriate.
It's just that, yes, indeed, they have encountered a number of technical difficulties in order to launch it and operate it fully. But these tales that we're going to launch it now and even supply electricity to the central regions of Russia where power is cut off by the hour, well, that's absolute nonsense, and it's hardly realistic to do that at all. Most likely this is just another propaganda myth.
At the same time, the occupiers themselves are now holding their heads in their hands. By destroying the Kakhovka HPP dam 2 years ago, they themselves blocked their own way to restarting the plant.
Starting up the plant itself is not a problem, but we will need several months to restore the peripheral infrastructure.
Substations, high voltage transmission towers that the enemy knocked out. And of course, another important point is that in any case, we need to raise the level of the Kakhovka reservoir because it has dropped by more than 11 meters. And the cooling reservoir exists, it is there, but it is not sufficient in volume for the nuclear power plant to operate normally, efficiently, and safely.
When they utterly destroyed the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant itself, thereby committing an egregious act of ecocide, those were only the initial immediate consequences. Indeed, the direct consequence is that there is not enough water in the reservoir, and as a result, the cooling systems at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant simply cannot be fully operated. In other words, they managed to seize it, but they cannot use it.
There is no doubt that Putin and his cronies are reckless enough to commit any crime, even the most horrific one. The only way to stop this evil is to act before it's too late.
Where has Ramzan disappeared to? As you know, Don Kadyrov nearly drowned while vacationing in Turkey. But as people say, Don Don doesn't sink. At the same time, the ruler of Chechnya has not appeared in public since reports of his hospitalization. Is he alive, and what is actually happening to him? We'll tell you all about it very soon. And now Russia is being shaken where no one expected it. The most powerful earthquake in decades has struck Kamchatka. A tsunami warning has been issued. Putin's response 0.0. The Tsar has no time for that. He's busy waging war. But the problems of ordinary mortals don't concern him. Besides, the dictator is now on the clock with Trump. There are less than 10 days left until the hour X. What is happening in the Kremlin right now, and what steps is the White House prepared to take? All this coming up in the International Review.
It's a real apocalypse in Kamchatka. The strongest earthquake since 1952. And then a tsunami with waves up to 4 meters high.
The preliminary estimate puts the magnitude of the tremors between 7.7 and 7.9. A tsunami warning has been issued. So once again, I repeat the request to move away from the shoreline in tsunami-prone areas. We live in a seismically active region, so we must be prepared for such events.
No reports of casualties or serious damage, but strong aftershocks continue.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
And can last about a month.
Whoa! We're shaking a little.
We're shaking. Marina, quiet.
Marina, calm down. It's okay. It's okay. Dear friends, let me remind you that we live in Kamchatka. Step back.
While Kamchatka is sinking from a tsunami, the head of Chechnya, Kadyrov, almost drowned at a Turkish resort. While swimming, he started to suffocate, and then he was resuscitated in intensive care. After the news of his hospitalization, he hasn't appeared in public for 6 days.
I keep hearing more and more rumors about my illness. They say I'm dying, that I don't have much time left. First of all, illness and death are the path of every person. No one alive has avoided this road.
We've heard that his condition is stable. Yeah? Stable doesn't mean good. It just means he's not dead yet. We don't even know if he's on any machines or, so to speak, even breathing on his own.
The Chechen authorities are not commenting on the situation, especially amid rumors that Kadyrov is dying, or maybe he's already dead. They just don't know how to present it yet. After all, in the last published footage a week ago, he didn't look very healthy.
16 hours and 10 minutes, I stopped by to see my brother, Ramzan Akhmatovich. We're having tea.
Where did you find me?
This is specifically for those individuals who are especially, let's say, quite anxious, those pseudo-journalists who are actively spreading all sorts of unfounded rumors.
What happened? Why did he suddenly start gasping for air and drowning? If we look at how many unexpected deaths have occurred recently in Russia and how actively the FSB and other special services use poisons, then maybe it wasn't an illness at all, but something he ate, smelled, or something else?
While there are upheavals in Russia, things are tightening up outside its borders as well. US President Trump has announced that he is reducing the time frame for a peaceful settlement from 50 to 10 days.
10 days. There's no point in waiting any longer. If you already know what the response will be, then why wait? There will be sanctions, possibly secondary tariffs.
The ongoing and relentless aggression from the Russian Federation, the continued and brutal terror against the innocent civilian population, and the increasingly dire situation directly on the front lines are now compelling President Trump to act more decisively and with greater urgency, since many observers and analysts saw the previously announced 50-day deadline as an unacceptable opportunity for Vladimir Putin to further continue the devastating war. And Trump definitely wouldn't want that.
Trump said that he personally realized Putin cannot be trusted.
We had a great conversation, and then I came home, turned on the news, and saw that Kiev had just been bombed. It was just torn apart. You can't do that! You just can't do that. Wait a minute. I spoke with him 4 hours ago, and now suddenly they're bombing Kiev and other places. I got along with him very well. We talked that day, and I come home and see bodies lying in the streets. So it's a tough situation, and I'm disappointed in Putin.
The Kremlin responded to Trump's shortened deadline in a veiled manner, making it clear that they don't care and have no intention of ending the war.
We have taken note of President Trump's statement yesterday. The special military operation continues, and we also remain committed to the peace process for resolving the conflict around Ukraine and ensuring our interest in the course of this settlement.
Meanwhile, India is already ready to give up Russian oil, and Europe is prepared to join Trump's tariffs. The only question is China. What is more important for them, to continue supporting Russia or to maintain free trade without tariffs?
I think these will be 100% secondary tariffs. We expect that most of the Western alliance supporting Ukraine will follow this example, and anyone buying Russian oil under sanctions should be prepared for this. The Chinese take their sovereignty very seriously. We don't want to infringe on their sovereignty, so if they want to pay a 100% tariff, let them pay.
On the one hand, we hear statements at the Trump level that the agreement is almost signed, everything is fine. But in Stockholm, with the participation of the same Besant and the Chinese side, negotiations on the details are still ongoing. In other words, right now everything comes down to the details. Therefore, the significant issue of shortening the deadline for Russia should also be seen as a considerable and strategic pressure on President Xi Jinping regarding the complex bilateral US-China trade relations and ongoing economic discussions.
It's obvious that for Russia, the war in Ukraine is not just unprofitable, but actually destructive. But it seems that Putin doesn't care about this at all.
US President Donald Trump announced 25% tariffs on India because of the war in Ukraine. India has always bought most of its military equipment from Russia, and along with China, is the largest buyer of Russian energy. While everyone wants Russia to stop the killings in Ukraine, all of this is not good, Trump noted. He also threatened India with penalties for buying oil and weapons from the Russian Federation. Veterans of the so-called special military operation are now required to speak publicly about the war in Ukraine, not from their own experience, but according to a special manual developed by the Kremlin. So, when faced with uncomfortable questions about whether a soldier had to kill and what he felt while doing so, they are supposed to respond with memorized answers. They say it's a harsh necessity. If we don't win, the enemy will destroy us, our wives, and our children. The document itself was obtained by Tendrivska journalists. We'll tell you what kind of propaganda is written in this manual to feed Russians these narratives.
deflect by telling stories about the wars of their grandfathers, joke off uncomfortable questions, and also insist that the civilian population welcomes the Russian army. Occupiers who have returned from the front are now being taught how to speak during public appearances. The Academy of Social Sciences has taken on this task, and their course is supposedly designed to teach them how to effectively convey the truth about the special operation and emotionally share stories of their heroism. In reality, though, it's just a standard propaganda manual for Russian killers. Journalists from Verstka obtained a copy and we'll go through it in detail.
Don't expect everyone to share your point of view, play on your side, or follow your rules. There will always be people who want to show that they disagree with you. Remarks like, "What are you telling us here?" can come up in any audience. The main principle, you should always have the remote in your hands. Don't let go of it.
By remote, the authors of the manual actually mean ordinary lies. For example, when asked, "Have you ever had to kill, and how many people have you killed?" the occupiers are advised to simply answer that it was a difficult necessity. They are also told not to forget to add that if supposedly the Russians don't win, then Ukrainians will destroy them, their wives, and their children. Additionally, they are advised to point out that supposedly Russian soldiers always try to prevent unnecessary deaths.
That's an excellent question. I'm very grateful to you for it. I get asked this a lot. Let's think about it together. Suppose you're attacked and you realize that you or your mother, sister, brother, or friend are about to be killed. You don't have time to think. Either you save yourself and your loved ones, or you don't. What would you do? I want to understand what you would do. Let's think about it together. I'm very interested to hear what you think about this.
Even more hypocrisy and lies are suggested when it comes to questions about prisoners. Russian killers are advised to claim that they supposedly strictly follow the norms of international law. They always feed, treat, let them contact their relatives, and even save them after severe injuries. All of this, of course, can be debunked with just one video of a prisoner exchange where you can see that Ukrainian soldiers in captivity have lost dozens of kilograms, and their families had no idea what was happening to their loved ones until the very end. There's no need to even mention the injuries. The occupiers were also reminded that when people ask them about their love for the motherland, they should be reminded that it is necessary to defend it from the enemy with weapons.
Not to go to rallies or write pretty words on social media, but to actually do something concrete so that the motherland survives and becomes better.
And if there is a question about civilians, the returning hero should answer that they express their gratitude for protection and support and see the Russian army as defenders who bring security and stability. There's not even any point in debunking this. We'll just remind you of that legendary video.
Take some sunflower seeds, put them in your pockets so at least sunflowers will grow when you lie here.
Returning to the course itself and the manual, as we've already mentioned, they are meant to help the returning occupiers. And they're being prepared to speak in front of school children, students, volunteers, or government representatives, including Putin himself. But experts have another theory as to why such a manual is needed. Ordinary Russian soldiers might also be forced to use it so that if they are captured, they know what to say.
It's also to meticulously minimize the sensitive information that could potentially fall into the hands of Ukrainian military forces and, as they themselves perceive it, to diligently protect the precious lives and overall health of their own soldiers who are unfortunately captured by the Ukrainian armed forces, because they genuinely believe that we feed them, that we actually eat them, which is a deeply disturbing and entirely false accusation. This comprehensive manual is specifically intended, as they themselves perceive it, to effectively protect their vulnerable prisoners of war who are currently in the hands of the Ukrainian army, specifically the armed forces of Ukraine, and thereby significantly minimize the potential flow of sensitive information that could potentially reach us and be utilized against them.
Of course, this won't work, just as these kinds of answers won't work for people who know how to think. But in the Russian Federation, they continue to naively believe that people will trust the occupiers who have returned from the front. Although maybe it's not so naive after all.
A brand new hysteria has erupted among Russian propagandists. Trump's 10-day ultimatum to Putin has really frightened Skabiva and the rest of the Solovyovs. But it's not just about Trump. The Russian propaganda machine has found itself a new enemy. Who is it? We'll tell you in a moment. In the meantime, give this episode a like and don't forget to subscribe to the Ukraine Today YouTube channel.
Russian propaganda continues to create an image of a liberating mission and heroism while ignoring reality, destruction, looting, lack of water, and children asking for help.
Uncle President, please give us the simplest miracle, water in our homes.
So let's talk about the children. The thing is, while you used to be able to just turn on the tap and get water in Donetsk, now you have to stand in line with buckets. It's also worth noting that the liquid coming out of the tap is a murky yellow color. You can't really drink it, cook with it, or wash with it. Residents complain, the water smells like a swamp, there's rust on the bathtub walls, and a residue on the dishes.
Is the water supplied to the population of the Donetsk People's Republic drinking water or technical water? How is the quality of tap water analyzed and how is it purified? Why does the tap water have an unusual color?
We simply cannot supply technical water by definition. We have filtration stations that thankfully are operational. We have a network that receives water from these filtration stations. Of course, some of our pipes are in emergency condition. Naturally, we are replacing them, but it's not possible to change everything at once. In some places, the color may change and sometimes even the smell. There may even be a smell in some areas. Some people have connections for, say, a dishwasher or use certain reagents or something else. And sometimes people record videos where the water is blue or light blue or, well, just an unreal color, completely unreal. But we don't even have reagents like that.
Improper connection.
Improper. The water goes through all the purification stages. And besides, I'm a chemical lab technician. All of this is monitored. Like I said, when it gets there, there might be some issues somewhere along the way. Our water is actually good. After purification, it's normal water.
And against the backdrop of carefully constructed narratives about the children of Donbass and the Alley of Angels in Donetsk, Russian propaganda has for years created the image of a victim to justify aggression. But outside of this convenient myth, there is another, much more terrifying reality.
Water is so simple, but for us it's a luxury. We children should be running around laughing, not waiting for someone to bring us water.
Uncle Vova, please help us so that we can simply wash up, drink some water, and continue to live our lives.
In the so-called liberated Ukrainian cities, children are literally surviving among ruins, without schools, without electricity, without food, and without water. Simple requests coming from the mouths of children are hard to comprehend. This isn't politics. This isn't a fight against Nazis. This is the cry of children who are forced to live in that very Russian world.
Uncle Vova, help us! We also want cleanliness and health.
But then, what is the banality of evil? It's when everything seems, well, normal. Well, you know, our boy came back from the front first with a wound. No big deal, just one finger. Then he went back again because he's a patriot. And now he's come back without a leg. Well, it happens.
What kind of man, if he considers himself one, would just up and run away from patriotism, from his duty to the motherland? Well, I don't think the motherland owes us anything.
But at least he didn't complain. While he still could, he ran around the ruins trying to catch an internet signal between drone strikes. Not to call an ambulance, not to call the kids, but to pick out a kitchen with his wife. For combat pay, for blood, for the benefits for the killed.
How much did the kitchen cost her? About 300, 400. But I was on duty all that time. She was there, I was trying to find internet and other things. I like it, but I have to work all day, then come home and look at it just to make sure.
And here we are in the Kursk region, a call to the live broadcast of patriotic radio. A man took a desperate step. He complained that in his village, Russian soldiers were looting houses. They stole a TV, dragged away a refrigerator, and as usual, even took the toilet.
Who gave our guys permission? Did they have commanders or not? They were engaged in looting. They took water, motorcycles, motor cultivators, and did all sorts of things there. I don't even know what else. Who is going to be held responsible for this? That's the question. So please answer me.
The looters are our soldiers, Russian soldiers, right?
Yes, exactly. That's right.
And why should I? And why should I believe you, sir? Maybe you're a Ukrainian scumbag who's trying to...
Why don't you come here? Why don't you let me give you my address? Come visit us.
It might seem like an ordinary story, but not in a country where a toilet thief is a hero, and the one who talks about it is the bad guy. And here's another hero. A man went to Ukraine to defend the Russian world, believing in victory, in brotherhood, in traditional values. But when he came back, his home was gone, his village had burned down, all that was left was smoke and empty promises.
Our city hall says everything is fine. But when I came back, my wife and I only had this one little house, and now we have nowhere to live. We have no place to live, so we're renting in Yekaterinburg.
He's in shock, but the local officials aren't. So what if there's no roof over your head? Meanwhile, Russian singer Shaman, known for his patriotism, white hair, and loud slogans, decided to take things to a new level. Literally.
I don't remember if I've mentioned this before, but it's my dream to sing in open space. But, you know, that requires some pretty serious preparation.
Now he wants to sing for aliens in outer space.